Here we go. Take it away. Let me get my notepad ready. I already have it open. Check me out.
Here we go. First question that we've seen.
Holy God.
We're doing our best to paraphrase a collection of thousands of questions that we've seen and distill them down into a somewhat coherent sentence. So you're taking a break from expansion development in Guild Wars 2 to deliver Hall of Monuments 2.0.
This is the fixed version, yeah.
Updates, a new ore map, and other quality of life updates. But you've also said you'd resume annual updates after Guild Wars 3. Can you clarify if they are updates or expansions?
Yeah, so
that's right. Despite our
I think that when I go back and watch that video over and over again, I think this is probably the biggest area that we messed up on, and I think that we were just too ambiguous. I think when we wrote it down, it felt like it was going to be a bit of like, well, this is a synonym for talking about expansions, and I think it was unclear. So to be really clear about it, like our intention, our direction is to return to annual expansions for Guild Wars 2. Annual updates feels like the same thing for us internally, but obviously the words have meaning. And so just say it very directly, our goal is to get back to annual expansions. We've tried a lot of different stuff with Guild Wars 2 over the years. So for a lot of our longtime veterans, which I'm sure there's a lot of them watching right now, they remember the Living World Season 1 experiment, which is, we're not going to ever do expansions for Guild Wars 2. Pivoted into doing major expansions.
Yeah, Chris says it gets much better in a couple of minutes.
Only Living World, back to expansions, and then back to annual. And I think we found that annual expansions are actually the kind of the sweet spot for us, both from a player standpoint, but also from a development standpoint. It's actually a very sustainable thing for us to be able to do. And
hold on, where's his mic? Because he's clear as hell aiming that way. Where's he put the lav? Like, his is there. It must be right here. Yeah, this is after Chris has tweaked the audio. God knows what it was like live. Yeah, I think it must be there. I don't see it there. No, they're using lavs. Because you can tell when he turns to his left, when he faces Colin, it fixes. Either way, it'll get better in a minute.
Contributed to a lot of the success we've been seeing in recent years.
See?
So I think that's very much the model that we want to kind of stick with. And, we'll keep producing new content for Guild Wars 2 as long as fans want to keep playing the game.
Absolutely.
Anything to add there?
I think definitely we are guilty of over the years on live experimenting with a lot of different forms of how do we update and support the game, and I think it is we've seen historically
there we go
the criticism of, hey, I wish that they would just stick to a thing that we know and deliver on that, and I think we've heard that, we understand that. I think sometimes when we're at our best, we're experimenting and trying new things.
Bad again.
But sometimes when we're at our worst, we're experimenting and trying new things as well. And so, I think that fearless spirit is part of what's made ArenaNet successful for all of these years. But sometimes things don't have to be experimented with. Sometimes there's things that just work. And I think that I completely agree with you. I think we found that players love expansions. They love the excitement of the big announcement. They love the launch day. It's a thing that works.
Yeah, exactly. The levels are all over the place, John.
Really happy with
way too
what
high.
That's done for us, and I think you and the GW2 team have done a phenomenal job consistently delivering those too.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll probably talk about it a little bit more later, right? Yeah. Cool. Okay, move on to the next one.
Next question. Yeah,
let's go for it.
Are you concerned that taking a 18-month-ish break from expansions in order to deliver these other initiatives is going to hurt the player population of Guild Wars 2?
Yeah, so super reasonable question. Obviously something we thought about a lot when we're kind of building out a strategy for the game. But I think the most important thing to understand is that we chose this path, right? Like, there's a lot of different ways that we could have gone. It would have been very easy for us to move right from Expansion 6 development and move right into working on...
It's not wrong, but I mean, the idea is you'll have Guild Wars 1 and 3, so it should be fine.
By the way, this is my first time ever saying Guild Wars 3 publicly. It feels really weird. It feels really weird.
We've had to practice for years. Everywhere we go, like, don't say it, whatever you do.
So it feels good. It feels pretty good. But anyways, there's a really interesting opportunity for us to, use the release of Hall of Monuments, which we're going to start doing later on this year, as an opportunity to kind of go back and revisit the entirety of the game. And so, the question of, like, are we worried about this harming engagement? I think realistically, with a game that's, as old as ours, I think it would probably hurt engagement more if we didn't actually go back and resolve a lot of these early game problems or problems that have been existing in core content and even previous expansion content. Like, I think that might actually have more of a negative impact on the game long term than taking a break from releasing expansion for a period of time.
Yeah. And, I think we've seen consistently from many of you, I think the folks in particular watching this video who are among the
I mean, it's a WoW inspiration, right, Soulbraver? It's worked out well for them. There's a huge benefit to it. I know some people got a little... I got some messages after yesterday's stream where I was talking about what FF14's response would this be, because I didn't elaborate. I went back and watched the clip, and I didn't elaborate, but I don't think FF14's going to do anything about this. But their inspiration from the WoW thing is that if you've only got one product right now, so your retail expansion, right, whatever your current retail thing is, the only content that you're delivering is for that. And so you deliver that, and then you're working on the next thing, but there's going to be nothing in the gap, right? So you're hoping the content you make is enough and sufficient to go there. Now, FF14 is pretty relaxed about you going away and coming back. They're pretty chill with that. They're okay with it. No problem. But what WoW's found great success with is, because they've divided the game up into so many different cakes, so to speak, is they have a team making something for this one over here, which really relaxes the stress on the team making something for retail or for the next classic variation or whatever, but they still have constant content releasing in a really high cadence. So you're not just, unless you're somebody who's dedicated entirely to, I only play retail like me, I'm only waiting for stuff to come out there. But anybody who's in like the whole zeitgeist, they're getting something new all the time. It's just that they do their shit in retail, and then something else launches over here, so they go and play that. And then they come back and they go here, but they're still staying in that ecosystem. So Guild Wars is going to go for the same sort of thing, which is like, oh, the Guild Wars 2 team is going to be making, maybe spend 4 months making, or longer, making something for theirs. But the Guild Wars 1 and the Guild Wars 3 team, they're in their period of making something, they're ready to ship something. Do you get what I'm saying? The issue is WoW's fast release schedule makes it hard to get into its other game types. Well, they're very much playing on the idea that a majority of players, and I don't disagree with this, gain nearly everything they want from a new piece of content within probably a month. And after that, the kind of grind sets in, and they're less invested in the game at that point. So WoW seems to be aiming at this like 35 to 40 day cadence of something new happening. And in that time, most people are done with what they want out of the game and are now getting into the sort of day-to-day banality type stuff with MMOs. And therefore, they can swap over to the other one and have something fresh and new. It's that endorphin rush, right? That's all it is. Is that people really enjoy when a new piece of content or a new season starts, that early rush of gaining a lot of gear, gaining a lot of power, gaining a lot of new pets, new toys, new mounts, which you can kind of do in like a month's time unless you're doing some of the mega ones. So they're keeping you constantly in that state of endorphin rush. Because when them endorphins wear off, there's a new thing over here which is going to give you that same rush again. Getting a lot of gear. TBC launches, you're going to level up, you're going to do your heroics, you're going to do Karazhan, you're going to do whatever, and then it sort of tapers, and then suddenly, oh, retail's here. I'm going to start doing my new Mythic Plus season, I'm going to get new vaults, I'm going to get all this, and then that's done, but then Mr. Pandaria or whatever's released its new raid. So now I can go and do Throne of Thunder and do all that kind of stuff. Blizzard's biggest issue has actually been quality. The QA with the amount of content they're releasing has been a disaster, for lack of a better word. In many occasions, you know, that's been their issue. They're creating and pumping out content for all these different variations of the game, but the quality has suffered dramatically. Yeah, it's been a problem. So Guild Wars is going to try the same thing. The Guild Wars 1 team can have 5-6 months to create something. The Guild Wars 2 team can, and as long as you stagger that, there's regularly some. If you really like Guild Wars, you're going to be fine. But if you're somebody who's like, I'm done with 2, I would prefer 3, then, you know, you'll be in the same situation, which is more of an FF14 situation, which is, I'm waiting for something new there. I wouldn't even say that's true anymore, Amadeus. They're putting more and more into that, because especially, it's very likely some Classic Plus sort of variation is coming. Which I find interesting as well, to see if they can go back and see what we can do there.
We've consistently seen you asking for, over many years, us to take an opportunity to go back and do this. And
there's a lot of people working on it. If you think of it from that cost, that production cost is labor cost primarily.
And it's always been really hard. And I think that, you know, we've seen the reaction already in saying this is what we're going to do. A lot of people are really excited that we've listened and that we
Hi,
are
Zodiac,
gonna
how you
do
doing?
what a lot of the community has been asking
Good to see
for
you.
there.
Thank you for watching the VODs,
I
by
think,
the way.
you know,
VODs,
reading through the
obviously, we
questions, a lot
stream
of
at a
it
bad
comes from a
time,
place
so
of, like-
VOD watchers,
Like,
big
no one
heart
wants
to you
play
always.
the MMO
Lurkers and
that
VOD
no one's
watchers,
playing.
you're the
That's
best.
worst thing you could have as a player of a game, right?
You are the absolute best.
And,
Love you guys.
You know, based on what we saw from the Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2 transition to Hall of Monuments, like, there's going to be so many players coming back to play Guild Wars 2, either for the first time ever, I guess, or players that played the game previously and they're coming back and experiencing it for the first time. And so, am I concerned about there not being players to play with in this period? Like, absolutely not. In fact, I think that what a lot of it's going to feel like is actually the Return to campaign that we ran with Edge Dragons back in 2021, where effectively it almost felt like, in a way, kind of a re-release of the game, in that like players were kind of going from the core game all the way through that into Living World, into Heart of Thorns, and basically the entire community was kind of re-experiencing all that game content for the first time together, and it kind of really felt like release time again.
Yeah.
And I think it's really kind of the vibe that we're going for in this time frame. My expectation is that millions of players are going to come back to Guild Wars 2 over the next couple of years, and so yeah, I think it's really going to be a nice soft landing for them to kind of come back into the game, and I think there's going to be a ton of stuff going on, and I'm pretty excited about it.
I mean, it's a really compelling time to invite your friends who might have played before and left over the years or never had a chance to play to say, listen, this is what they're doing and now is the time to come back and play it. We also feel like with Guild Wars Reforged going to mobile and reinvesting back in Guild Wars Reforged, there's a real opportunity there for people to fall in love with the Guild Wars franchise who have never had an opportunity to see it before. And after they play Reforged, they're going to want to go see other Guild Wars stuff, and they're going to go play Guild Wars 2. And that will play out over
exactly
many
what we
years to
just
come.
talked about.
And, you know, to your point, even after Guild Wars 3 releases, Hall of Monuments...
Question for the WoW guys. As far as I know, they have yet to pull the trigger on things you earn in other variations of the game crossing over. They haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, I don't think. That's correct. They haven't done that yet. Plunderstorm was a separate game mode available to everybody, so I don't count that. I'm talking like you achieve... You kill Kel'Thuzad, Nax Ramus Classic, a simple example. So you earn a title in retail that is Famed Slayer of Kel'Thuzad. They haven't done that yet, right? Yeah, exactly. You kill Lura, Mythic, and you have a different mount in Classic, something like that. They have something like the Hearthstone mount, okay, which is a paid... I'm talking about things that aren't paid. Like the Hearthstone mount, I think you have to pay for, maybe. There's also quote-unquote from a separate game. Yeah, that's not a thing. Yet. Because that's the kind of the cherry they're probably looking for, which is maybe where something like Classic Plus, because they can class that as a separate thing. Because you know they want to do that, because that FOMOs people hardcore to go and play the other versions of the game, but obviously Classic is quite protected.
3 together is going to act as
traditional
a tool
Classic
to get people who play Guild Wars for the first time with Guild Wars 3 to want to go back and play Guild Wars 2. And when they go back and play that, they're going to see an entirely new, updated experience.
Yeah, exactly,
that
Baz.
This project allows us to have.
Classic Plus and its variations, like Plunderstorm, are separate from that.
Okay.
Take a break, drink a bit, rewind the last question. Drink a bit, we're going to restart it.
I thought you cut this out, Chris. You lie.
Okay. Guess we're taking a break. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Oh.
Can you restart the question you were answering?
Can we restart the question that we were just answering?
So all of the second one?
The whole thing? Okay.
Well, they're going to get a sense of just... Are we live right now, I'm assuming?
We are.
Okay. So you're going to really get a sense of how casual we're being, because we're going to probably give you a completely different answer.
Absolutely, yeah. This is...
Okay.
Josh, you've never heard
exactly
this
what
question before.
This is fun.
This is.
Well, it started fun. It's giving, Okay, so...
Are you concerned that taking an 18-month break from expansions in order to deliver these other initiatives is going to hurt
Chris
the player
fixed ours, so I think we got the answer.
Yeah. So
when this is a franchise that we're going to keep supporting for many, many years to come and keep investing in Guild Wars Reforged and in Guild Wars 2, there's a real opportunity here for us to address these issues just as a whole new audience is going to get a chance to play Guild Wars 2 for the first time ever, or a whole group of people who haven't played in a really long time are going to come back. I think Guild Wars Reforged and
I feel like a
continuing to
twat.
expand our investment there, especially
I
with that going
don't mean to be shitting
mobile.
on somebody, but those issues going on for as long as they did. Chris already cut out a portion of this, and then they had to fix it again several minutes in. You kind of should be fired for that. Because that's not okay. At least, unless it's somebody who's never done it and somebody's like, oh, I'll sort this out or whatever. That is really not okay. Like if Chris came to me and we'd been doing this for like 10 minutes and he'd been not saying something, I'd be like, that's a bit harsh. Depends who it is. If it's like Tim, the art designer, who's like, I'll do the audio for the live stream, we'll just put a camera in and set OBS up and we'll just do it, then no, that's fine. If this is a production team, that's a different kettle of fish. Like I'm saying, I don't know who is running this, but to have it go on, you should realistically, from a production standpoint, this problem is recognizable within the first 7 seconds, not several minutes in after they've done all this. So yeah, it might just be an intern, in which case the guy's like, I don't even know how to fucking fix this. I don't know the difference between gain and volume on these microphones. I don't know. Then fair enough. But yeah, if it's not that,
devices for the first time this summer, that's going to introduce an entire new audience to Guild Wars who's never played
more
it before.
gain
And
equals more
someday,
profit.
A bunch of those
yeah.
people are going to go play Guild Wars 2, and we want them to have the best experience
much
they
nicer
possibly
now.
can and fall in love with the Guild Wars 2 experience that you all have and that we have. And similarly, someday farther in the future, when Guild Wars 3 releases, you're going to see a whole bunch of people who play Guild Wars 3, and when they have a point where like, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next, they're going to look at Hall of Monuments and say, I'm going to go back and play that Guild Wars 2 game and get all the cool stuff in Hall of Monuments.
In fact, I'll go even further. I know this
is
has distracted me from what they're talking about, but it's so much cleaner now. I don't think anybody was checking, which is kind of even worse. Because they cleaned it up immediately once they interrupted them and said we needed to do something. And they didn't change labs or anything.
experience that they can in GW2, and to fall in love with Guild Wars 2 again at that point too, the way that you all have. And we see this very much as a system that allows
Chris
that to
fixed
happen,
it.
and we want to have the best experiences we can, and this is the time to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And we're gonna have a lot more information to share on all this stuff in the coming months and whatnot. You know, right now our team is just heads down focused on VOE QR3. We want to make sure
there was
really
this because
well,
Chris
and
is
that feels
okay.
like
This is Chris's fix.
very
It was
fitting
still really bad
into,
live. Okay, that's
to
fair.
that expansion. But you know, I know we gave the example of the Zaitan fight. I know it's one that you personally, Colin definitely put his thumb on the scale a little bit for us to take on that initiative. But you know, I think that we want to take
Leave it
a couple of big
alone.
things like that as we're kind of going through.
For real, leave it alone.
I know there's encounters in Heart of Thorns and Pathfire and even other expansions that we'd love to go back and retool in a very similar way. And so I think there's going to be a lot of really exciting stuff. Honestly, it's not just going to be all bug fixing.
Zaitan's a great one. Of like, I don't know if we've ever.
Yeah,
said
exactly.
The story. Why not? We're here.
Where do you guys sit with stuff like this? Like, it's objectively terrible, considering the build up to that fight, and it's awful. But it is a part of that experience. It is a part of that journey, and it's something that all the community shares in and knows. And I just think I think endearing is the word. But you don't do it a lot, do you? You know what I mean? Yeah, I like that kind of scuff. You think fix it. Fuck nostalgia. But I mean, how often is this interfering with your play? Right? Is this a problem? Add to it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because I've got a streamer bias, but I remember when I was doing it, you guys were just laughing hysterically because I'm like, well, what's going to happen? And then nothing happens, and you guys are laughing because you think it's so funny. Because it's like, streamer doesn't know. And I got that experience out of it, of you guys having the best time of me trying to figure out that I must be missing something. What the fuck is going on?
The tech, the capacity to actually have the tech to do like the moving platforms and some of the stuff that happens in the Zaitan fight, it didn't come online until like 3 weeks before the game released, 2 weeks before the game released. And so by the time the tech was fully functional, and we were all sweating bullets, like, hey, is this ever even, like, we're going to ship the game and it doesn't even work. And the tech came online just at the very end. And so we basically had, 2 weeks before launch to try to throw together something that made that an experience that would work. I don't think it's anything close to what any of us had hoped that it would be. I was happy that it even functioned by the time the game shipped. And we're pretty terrified right to the last possible minute. And so I think it's going to be really fun. Anything like that in retrospect, it's going to be impossible for the team to ever make it live up to what people in their minds now are imagining it could turn into. Like, we still have to work within the constraints of the model and the animation and the stuff that's in that level. But whatever we can do to make it better is going to be worth it.
I love this stuff. Did you guys watch Jonathan and Chris Wilson's podcast together? They talked a lot about this stuff, about how fucked the game is before they have to ship it, because they're doing so much work. There's so many elements that are like stupid things just don't work. One of the obvious ones that Jonathan pointed out is in all their testing, they tried so many things, but it turned out when the game went live, PoE, people were farming so much currency, it like overflowed their entire database of how much shit people were acquiring, even after they tested it extensively, and just flat out fucking broke the game. Because people were gaining so much shit that was well beyond what their testing was on the thing. And they were like, our database literally couldn't handle these fucking numbers that were flowing into the game. And just fucked everybody's character up. So funny. And they were like, oh my God.
Hey, we just barely got it out the door that it was when the game shipped.
I think if we could just reduce the amount of time you spend on a cannon, I think it'd be good. my one ask.
It was basically just stand there firing cannons mission.
And I guess just one last reminder, this is all covered in the video that we put on Saturday, but like, it's not like we're not doing any content this time frame either, right? Like, so choosing to not do an expansion in this time frame allows us to do some other really cool stuff. So the fact that we're going to be adding a new map in Ore, the details of this are going to be really high level. I'm not going to expand on it today. We'll have plenty of time to expand on it in the future.
Fair.
But, being able to have a little bit of connective tissue between Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 3, I think is really exciting. And so, like, we're going to be definitely heads down working on that. And then the new War vs. World Borderlands map is another really big initiative that we're taking on. And we're really only able to do that because we're taking a bit of a break from expansion development. And so, there's going to be a lot of cool stuff that's going to be going on in this time frame, outside of just the modernization efforts.
Yeah. And it's a perfect time to make a brand new character, to go through and experience all of those areas as we're updating them along the way too.
Yeah, what are you going to reroll?
Oh man,
You're a warrior main? Right?
I'm an NG main.
NG main? Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
Sura engineer.
Wow, so you heard it here first. ArenaNet engineer favoritism.
We have never put our hands on the scale for balance, by the way. Ever.
Guardian has been dethroned as the favorite.
Risky play, isn't it? Like, your general player base is probably happy that you're going to take a year off delivering new content because you modernize the game, but they're probably also going to unsubscribe and wait to come back. It's a risky move. Like, obviously, Josh thinks this is well worth it. It's going to allow us to do so much shit in the future and sort of cement us for a while. I'm not talking about... Guild Wars has no sub. Yeah, I understand that, but I'm talking about your other games that do have a sub. Like, if Retail, WoW, or 14 was like, we're not going to be able to do an expansion or deliver any new major content patches for a year or so because we're going to do all this really cool shit that's awesome. Yeah, they can't do that, right? They can't do that. It's an advantage that ArenaNet has from their no sub model. If let's say Yoshida comes on the next live letter, is like, okay, guys, so Evercold's going to launch, but we're then not really going to have a major content patch for like 12 months, but we are going to make the glam system no longer restricted. We're going to go back and do X, Y, and Z that you guys have been clamoring for a long time, and we're always trying to develop that alongside the rest of the game. But so what we're going to do is we're going to take a year off doing, there's going to be no ultimates, there's going to be no Savage Raid or anything like that, no MSQ patches for about 12 months or so. But what we are going to do is do all this shit. You're going to have multi-dyeable, it's going to be like the mobile game, right? It's going to be multi-dyeable armor. You would wait, but you're probably not going to give them any money or anything. The ERP scene would balloon. The ERP scene is off the fucking chain. As this achievement they're adding to the old content, like a meta. I'll give you stuff in Guild Wars 2, but in 2 is going to be the reason to come back. That's what I was talking about with WoW Shalana, because they've not made that jump yet, and they're desperate to. They're absolutely desperate to, but they have a commitment to the classic, traditional style that they can't do it. So we need to find a way of doing that in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Yeah.
At least that's what the internet tells me.
You ready for another one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Why not do expansions and this modernization effort at the same time and in parallel?
Five-head!
That's
What a
it's a really good
five-head question.
And I think we might end up getting a little bit of inside
Such
baseball
big
here, I guess.
brain. Why not just do
Yeah,
both?
I think that every developer you talk to, no matter what game they're working on, wishes they could do all the things all the time.
I love that question. Why not just do both, dude?
And 20 new elite specs, or well, it's not a round number. 18 elite specs. Engineer will get 2 extras.
That's okay. That makes sense. That's fair. We would definitely force that to happen.
Yeah, for sure. But
just buy a
we all wish
house.
that we could do infinite things effectively, right? But like we do have a fixed team size, and we've got the business needs, the business concerns, I guess, that we've got to kind of keep in mind. And so I think the reality is that we could choose to do both, but I think it would mean that we'd probably do things in a fairly underwhelming fashion on both sides. Yep. The content would be either more sparse or would be even further spaced out than it already is, which would certainly have some folks pretty unhappy. And I think that we wouldn't do nearly as good of a job on the quality of life stuff as we would want to. Mm-hmm. We have been trying to make an effort to carve out some time to work on quality of life issues over the past couple of years, especially when it comes to the new features that we're releasing. Like, how do we take things that already exist in the game and bring them up to a bit more of a modern design standard? My favorite example of this is Wizard's Vault, right? Which is effectively daily achievement system and a couple other older systems, and kind of repackaging it in a way that feels a bit more modern and is a bit more player friendly, right? Yep. So we've taken a couple big swings like that in the context of expansions, but I think that this phase is going to allow us to do that in a much more robust way, because we're not going to have to worry about
the risk
for the latest
the
expansion.
risk
We can basically touch everything in the game.
The risk with what they're doing is that they underdeliver. That's the risk. They're talking about modernizing. They've obviously brought up specifically the Zaitan fight, but like they're taking a whole year off new development in order to do something. The risk is, after that year, it's kind of the same. And you're like, okay. Thankfully we're not paying a sub for it, but like, what did we get? That's the issue. Under delivering is the issue here.
So I think it really just comes down to, it's just constraints, and so we want to do this right, and just felt like kind of the right time for us to do it. And we wish that we could do all the things all at once, but it's not how things work, unfortunately. Time is a big constraint. People's a big constraint. I'm pretty excited about working.
I agree, ChunkeyNinja. I think this is a good move, especially if they do it properly and set themselves up for several more years.
Cool. Yeah. All right, want to move on?
Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead.
You want me to read this one?
Yeah, that sounds fun. Okay. Let's do it. Let's put those old hosting skills to work.
Oh my gosh, the pressure. We've seen a number of players say that this plan sounds ambitious and exciting. Well, thank you, first of all. I love that feedback.
Why are you thanking Colin?
Write that.
Colin has said
you're going to be able to deliver on it up to the release of Guild Wars 3.
I think that's probably among the most consistent pieces of feedback that we've seen across since Saturday. Is like, this is awesome, but can they deliver? Will they deliver it? And I think the first answer is we already have been. And we have been for years. And I think that's a really important note for everybody to take into account is, you're all hearing this for the first time on Saturday when we made this announcement, but this message is one that we've been saying internally to the entire ArenaNet team for years, and preparing for this moment for years, and practicing and working this way for years, as Guild Wars 3 has been in development for years, while we've been shipping an expansion for Guild Wars 2 every year across this period of time, and we've partnered with 2 Weeks to start building back up Guild Wars Reforged all at the same time as well. So this isn't a brand new initiative that suddenly now, yesterday that we all scrambled and tried to figure out how do we do. We've already been doing it.
And this is probably getting a little inside baseball, but I think that the way that we structure the studio is also a big part of this, right?
Yep.
And so, again, this is kind of more about how we develop games here, right? But fundamentally, there's a couple different approaches we could take when it comes to staffing and building these various games, right? A lot of these studios lean heavily into the concept of shared teams or shared service teams, where you've got a design department that's across all different games, and you're constantly moving folks back and forth as needed. The approach that we've taken pretty much from the very beginning, years and years back, right, was basically, I kind of think of it as like we effectively are operating almost like two mini studios within ArenaNet, where all the resources that are dedicated to working on Guild Wars 2 are full-time dedicated to working on Guild Wars 2, and they're not shared with Guild Wars 3 and vice versa, right? And so what it really means is that as game directors, we basically we know exactly the folks that we've got on the team, what their capacity is, what their bandwidth is, and we can really build schedules and timelines around that, and not have to worry about potential competing needs from other projects, borrowing or taking resources. And I think so far it's been, Oh, I think we're good. Okay, sorry. I saw movement in the background. I thought we were having to take a break again.
Don't look at each other. Look at the camera. They can't hear you well.
Oh, okay. I'm not supposed to look at Colin anymore, apparently.
All right. I can't look at Josh.
It's going to be really hard.
When we look at each other, the mics stop working, and so we are now going to focus just on all of you.
His smile's so magnetic, it's hard to not look at him when you talk to him.
Comedy.
What the hell
Please
was I saying?
don't look at each other.
Resource sharing. And
Yeah.
dedicated.
So the model that we've landed on, right? Oops, sorry. The model that
It's
we've
really hard
landed
not
on.
to look at each other.
I know. The model that we've landed on is effectively to have, like, two
This is amazing.
mini,
So
mini
funny.
studios within ArenaNet, right? I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add there.
Yeah, we did early on. There's some moments where we tried some experiments of like, hey, let's have a person working partially on both games, and I think that what we found is it's just really bad for us. It's bad for that person. They have to try to keep context in two completely different areas, two completely different engines and tool sets and tech stacks to understand. And the reality is, I know a lot of studios do work that way. What we found for ArenaNet is that's not best for us. And so, as Josh said, by knowing these are the dedicated resources that our team has, these are what we're going to be able to do, we're able to plan for, constrain, schedule, and deliver the stuff that we want to do without risk of, hey, suddenly this project needs some help, and so we got to move people over there. And it's forced some really hard decisions at times. In years leading up till now, there's been moments where we've said, hey, there's a gap over here, it'd be great to fill it. And the answer is like, no, Guild Wars 2 shipping and expansion, we're not messing with that. We're not going to pull resources. They're staying on Guild Wars 2, and we need to find other solutions for that on the other project. And even now with Guild Wars Reforged, and a lot of that work is obviously being split between ArenaNet and 2 weeks working together, which makes
I'm just saying now, and you guys can wait for this. If I do get to have an interview with them at some point, right? Either Grouch or Colin or whatever. I'm going to say after the interview starts, it's okay, you can turn your head. I'm like creaming at the idea that I'm going to be able to be like, it's all right, you can turn your head if you want to. Like, I'm absolutely going to drop that banger in there at some point. Even if they don't get it, I'm absolutely doing it. Just get shitty mics. A couple of directional mics. Can we get more than one camera? Than the static shot with the dirty water bottles and the fucking cup in the middle of it. Oh, shit. Excuse me. Oh, the ability to move your head while talking is wild.
easier, but we really almost have like a third little mini studio
fuck
inside of
that.
ArenaNet as well across the three different games that are in flight, which is really fun. It's awesome. It's a dream we had going all the way back to, I remember Mo talking about it in 2007, 2008, being at a point where we would have multiple different game teams at ArenaNet that were live and or shipping games. And it's taken us a long time to get there, but it's pretty incredible to be at that point. And we've learned a lot over the years on how to do that right for ArenaNet so that we can deliver a plan like this. And like we said earlier, we have been planning for.
I didn't hold my sneeze in. I pressed the mute button. Thank you for the concern, but I didn't want to sneeze into the microphone, so I muted the microphone. Okay. Jesus.
For this, we have already been doing it, and I think the real question, and
I have some level of audio control. Something you should have when doing some form of production.
And this is the thing you're all going to have to tell us is, we know we can deliver on the strategy. Do you like the outcome? So we have the resources to do it. Yes. That is one of the questions people have asked is, do you have the capacity to do it? The answer is yes. But the part that's on us, that's it comes down to actions, not words, is do you like the stuff that we're doing? Do you love Guild Wars 3 and the things that it does? And some of you won't. That's okay. You can play Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1. Hopefully enough people do that it's really successful. Do you like the stuff that we're doing in Guild Wars 2 as we do this initiative and with Guild Wars 1, Guild Wars Reforged? Those are that is the criteria that now we have to go deliver
marketing
on,
says
but we're
don't
not
call it
constrained
that.
by resources to do it, which is exciting.
Don't turn your head.
Stop! I think some of the concern that I have heard, I'm making an assumption here.
Stop turning!
I think that there's maybe a concern out there that we are moving people off of Guild Wars 2 onto Guild Wars 3 while we're in this maintenance mode.
You're doing it again! Stop it!
Phase, or whatever people are calling it, right? That is not the case at all. So basically, the entire team that we would have be building expansions in the future is staying on Guild Wars 2 during this entire phase. They're just repurposed and refocused to working on the modernization efforts effectively. And so we're not lending or sharing or moving a bunch of people off temporarily and then bringing them back. They're actually staying on Guild Wars 2 the entire time, but we're just refocused to work entirely on modernization, the Borderlands map, and the Orb map.
Give it up, man.
And then they will go back.
People aren't going to get it.
Yeah,
no matter how clear you make it. Trust, they still don't get it.
But like, maybe we haven't said it explicitly, so I just wanted to be really clear about that.
Yeah, you can't be. They still don't get it.
Nope. We have also been looking at the wrong camera. Nice.
They have more than one camera. They have. Chris, is this a wind up? They actually have more than one camera, but they've never changed the POV a single time. Oh my fucking god!
Nailing it.
Yeah,
oh
we're doing
man,
a good job here.
we're. If we intentionally wrote a list of things that we could do to make this feel more casual and haphazardly thrown together, I don't know if we would have come up with everything we've done so far.
I'm gonna take off my shoes.
Go for it. I wore shorts to work today, and I put on pants for this.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put hard pants.
Yeah.
Yes. And now I feel like I shouldn't have. I'm
You should.
disappointed in myself.
No, you have. That is important. You do have to do that.
Yeah.
Trust.
I'll read this one.
I feel like I should read this one.
Show the
because
camera
it's a
about your
really good one
balls.
for you to answer.
Okay.
It's not a good
Read it
move,
not.
guys.
I'm not supposed to look at you. I forgot.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is getting insane. This is actually going so insane. I forgot I'm not supposed to look at you. This is getting fucking wild. Oh my god. I wonder how many cameras are in front of them. I hope there's like 4 cameras staring at them. It's just all trickery. It's like a fucking gag. They got 4 cameras, 6 microphones, nothing's working, and they're not allowed to look at each other. Jesus fuck.
Josh Davis, regarding the Hall of Monuments, will we be rewarding... Will we be rewarded for accomplishments we've already achieved, or will everything require us to replay content?
Yeah, so
Josh
this is a really good
Davis.
question. What I'd say is that, I'm going to offer a little bit of insight here, but there's going to be a lot more information about Hall of Monuments to come later on this year, right? So we just freshly announced this. There's not a lot of detail out there yet. There'll be a more formal big announcement later on this year. But I think from a design standpoint, we want to try to find a way to do both effectively, right? Like, I think it's really important to us that we find ways to honor the time and investment that players have put into Guild Wars 2 over the past... going on 14 years now, effectively, right? There are players who've spent, hundreds of hours in the game. There are players who spent tens of thousands of hours in the game, right? Like, I'm not even sure who has the most account age at this point, or the most time played at this point, but that there are multiple players with 30,000, 40,000 hours that have
wild
over the past 14 years. When you think about it, over the past 14 years, it's not so bad, right?
Yeah.
And we do want to try to find a way to bring a lot of that accomplishment that they've already achieved effectively into the Hall of Monument system, but at the same time, we do want to find ways to encourage them to go play that new content or the new refreshed content that we talked about earlier, along with the rest of the community. And so I would expect a healthy mix of both, effectively, in that system.
Dude, the people who have done the entire achievement thing multiple times,
in terms of the structure
wild.
of the releases, so right now, I wish we could go out of order, to be honest, because so we're starting with the core game. The core game is the biggest chunk of the game possible, right? It's the thing that we spent 7 years developing initially, right?
Yep.
And then we've also done a lot of work on it since then. And so I think we could probably spend an entire year just focused on the core game. But unfortunately, just because of how things work and the fact that we're going chronologically, is going to be the first release that we're going to do. We're actually going to break the core game out into 2 releases, though, just to give ourselves a little bit more time. And so the first release will be a bit more focused on core game systems. And then the second release will be focused more on core game, open world content and story content. And then we'll go into each of our expansions.
Good to do the actual code stuff first.
Include all the associated
before the glossy
Living World,
stuff.
Releases as well. And those are probably spaced probably about a month and a half to 2 months apart from each other. And kind of in between all of that, there'll be a very similar structure to what we talked about with the Return to campaign, where each week there's kind of like new achievements and Wizards Vault objectives these days to actually go and accomplish in those areas of the game. So we'll have a lot more information out later this year. I'm personally very excited about it. A lot of really cool stuff going on in there. You'll also be able to earn rewards in Guild Wars 2 as well as Guild Wars 3, which I think is pretty exciting as well. And so even if you're not super interested in later, new achievements and Wizards Vault objectives these days to actually go and accomplish in those areas of the game. So we'll have a lot more information out later this year. I'm personally very excited about it. A lot of really cool stuff going on in there. You'll also be able to earn rewards in Guild Wars 2 as well as Guild Wars 3, which I think is pretty exciting as well. And so even if you're not super interested in playing Guild Wars 3, which I know everyone is, but if you if you just wanted to, earn nothing but Guild Wars 2 rewards, like that's totally not okay too as well. So there's, I think, a lot of learnings from the original system that we're putting into place for Hollow Monuments 2.0.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hopefully all stuff, that's really exciting for everybody. We're really curious to hear your feedback in particular, but I think, this is a uniquely ArenaNet thing. There's not a lot of games that do this. We're going to, I think, talk more later today. There's a few questions that go more into kind of like our franchise strategy. And so we'll talk more about that later, but like, this is something that we very intentionally do to align with our pillars of feeling like your time is respected and your investment is respected. And we really want to do the next iteration of Hollow Monuments right. So it feels like, just like with each of our games, there's innovation and evolution. We want to apply the same process to Hollow Monuments here.
Cool. Ready for me to go to the next one?
Let's do it. All right.
Okay. Is Guild Wars Reforged going to be connected to the new Hollow Monuments system?
All right. Well, we've said lots of happy, exciting news. This is one where I have to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer, at least today. The answer is, for now, no. Right now, we are focusing on connecting Guild Wars 2 to Guild Wars 3 via Hollow Monuments. Guild Wars 1 already connects to Guild Wars 2 via Hollow Monuments. And the Guild Wars Reforged team, and in particular, our very small ArenaNet team and our partners at 2 Weeks Games, right now they're focused on 2 major initiatives. They're going to ship this game on a brand new platform that ArenaNet's never been on before. That is a huge focus for them. And this summer, we're incredibly excited to have Guild Wars Reforged be playable on your phone and to reach a brand new audience. And also, hopefully for all of us, a chance to go back and play again in Guild Wars 1 and play the game that started it all in a new way.
I do want to revisit it, but I don't think for very long.
Our game director for Guild Wars Reforged,
I don't know whether I was
also
just
announced
not in
they're
the
working
right
on a brand new
mindset
type
to
of
play
content
Guild Wars 1
for Guild Wars Reforged as well, and they're focused on that. And so those are their big priorities right now. And we will reevaluate and look at things for Hollow Monuments more in the future. I do want to explicitly call out that I've seen this question asked along with the most common piece of feedback that I've seen as part of this is, I wish that the God Walking Among Mere Mortals title was carried over because it's so important from Guild Wars Reforged. And I do want to call out, I think, I understand that. I hear that feedback, and it's something that we'll go and review and discuss internally. Right now, our focus for Guild Wars Reforged is not on Hollow Monuments, but it is feedback that we've heard, and so I think it's really important to take a moment and just call out. We have seen that, and we have seen that comment in the community, so we appreciate that.
That's fair.
More
we heard
updates
it.
someday in the future.
We're not pretending
now,
you haven't
we're
asked.
Focused on Guild Wars 2 to Guild Wars 3.
Cool. I think you should ask the next one.
Yes. All right. How confident are you that Guild Wars 2's engine can realistically support things like PBR without breaking performance?
The fuck is PBR?
And that is not Pabst Blue Ribbon, for the record, if anyone's wondering.
Yeah, so again, this is a really good question. I was surprised that so many folks were digging into this one so much. It is a very
physics-based rendering.
It's a challenge, honestly. We're taking a game. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like the game engine for Guild Wars 2 is actually built off of GB1, right? Like a lot of that.
I mean, Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, a mix of early GW1 stuff and then really a whole bunch of standalone stuff on top of that. But yeah, I mean, it's uniquely its own engine. It is not an off-the-shelf engine. It's not Unreal. It's our own in-house built thing.
But I guess my appreciate the context. I guess my point with a lot of that is like you could still go into our code base now and find code that was written for Guild Wars 1 that's executing right now on live, basically, right? Like a lot of that stuff still exists. And so, the idea of taking a game engine that was originally built for Guild Wars 1 that's been kind of, has evolved over time and trying to do more and more things to modernize it is a really, it's a huge technical challenge, right? And I think that that hasn't stopped us, obviously. We've been doing a lot of things in recent years to, one, implementing DirectX 11. We've got more modern shader technology that we're using now, improved texture compression. We just recently did a update with the launch of VOE for improved shader technology. And I think we've learned a lot from every single one of these releases. And I think that, there's been some things that have gone really well for us and have only been a bonus or a plus to the player experience. And I think there's been some that haven't landed exactly the way we wanted them to, mostly because there are thousands and thousands of hardware configurations out there that's hard for us to replicate internally. But I think it's... I think this is a thing that we have to do for the game. I think that players want to see the game continue to evolve over time and to feel more modern, and they don't want it to feel like a relic of 2012 effectively. And so it is a tough challenge, but I think one that we're very excited to take on. And so, PBR, the PBR upgrade specifically, I think is a really interesting one in that the real technical challenge here is not so much how do we get PBR to work in Guild Wars 2, but it's how do you actually have assets that were built outside of the PBR pipeline, so things that we already got in the game.
Does the game play well?
That's I don't care. In the PBR pipeline, and how do you make it feel like
I know I'm in the minority there. People want things to look nice and special, but as long as the game plays well, I'm good.
That's the old stuff, and here's the new stuff.
It can look like fucking Minecraft to me. I don't
finding a way
care.
to do that, I think, is actually the biggest challenge.
I don't give a shit.
The comments over the weekend, I think probably the biggest concern is performance, and what does an upgrade like this mean for the performance for the game long term? So I think the main thing to understand here is that we're actually doing work on both fronts.
Yeah, blind bonus.
Right. So we've got folks that are dedicated to working on client and server perf, and then separately there are folks that are working on improving fidelity of the game.
Yeah, if it makes their life easier, awesome.
I do think we need to find headroom in performance in order to be able to make some of these improvements possible there, right? So like if we didn't address performance at all and just continue trying to add new fancy stuff to the game, like obviously that would start to make it so that certain players couldn't play the game anymore. And
that'd be pog thumbs up.
So these initiatives are effectively happening kind of in parallel with each
makes
other.
their content process easier.
We do have to address the performance problem as well. And it also manifests a lot of different ways, right? When I say performance, there's really kind of two large categories of those things, both of which we're working on. So one is client performance. Client performance is like your frame rate, right? Like so when you run around in Warversus World or any sort of like large scale populated map and your frame rate starts to chug, and it feels like your screen's not updating very often, that's client performance, right? And that's a big focus of ours. Then separately, there's server performance, which is, what can feel like lag or latency. If you play Warversus World, I'm going to say a thing that you've all experienced before, which is you push a button and then you don't see your cast bar go off, right? And like maybe a couple seconds later, it finally executes. That's a different kind of performance problem, but it's still a performance problem.
No, I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing at them not muting the guy opening a bottle of water and having a drink while the other guy is talking. Like, that's what I was laughing at. Like, that's crazy. If you're working the stream, someone reaches for their bottle of water, you just press mute for a second.
Much taking a look at it. In fact, this year we actually deployed some brand new monitoring and diagnostic technology to live. We didn't talk about it or announce it publicly, but it's actually giving us a lot of really great information in terms of ways that we can actually tackle optimization for the game on live. And so a lot of really cool stuff happening on that front right now.
Yeah, and I think that this goes back to a theme that we've already talked about today and is worth reinforcing of, one of the questions that we're seeing coming out of our Saturday Future the Franchise video is like, hey, is this real? Are they going to stick to this plan? Is this commitment to supporting all three games something that in the future they're going to keep doing? You don't make investments like this into updating the technology on a game like Guild Wars 2 unless the goal is to continue to invest and support the game.
True.
I think that we have a strong track record,
good comment.
in particular over the last 5 years, of already doing some things like this and carving out time to do a lot more of it. these are things you do if you want this game to be around.
That's well said.
What we say, 15 more years
At least.
At least, I'd love to. Recently we had somebody.
Wait, what? Chris has cut out the mic picking up the sound of paper moving. Was there a lot of shuffling sounds coming through? Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Big shuffle
Retire
energy.
from ArenaNet was pretty awesome. It's not a thing that you see happen in the game industry basically ever. I would love to be able to look around and say a bunch more people have retired from ArenaNet someday and are off living their best dreams of being retired and playing Guild Wars all day long while they're retired, and hanging out and watching the game continue to get updated and supported at that point as well.
Baby.
And this stuff is what you do to make that possible.
Well said.
Page 1 of questions.
There was one other note I had. This doesn't follow on what you were just saying just now at all. I should have mentioned it earlier, but I think one of the learnings that we took away from some of the recent fidelity upgrades, for example, is that where possible, we need to make some of these things optional. And so with the shadow technology specifically, we've been going back and adding a lot more granularity in terms of controls that players have to make sure that, if for whatever reason the new settings don't work well for them on their rig or whatever, they still have the ability to kind of fall back into the way that things used to be. And the drop downs that we've added aren't the final solution for that problem. Obviously, we want to make sure that everyone can kind of benefit from those changes. But if we do roll a change out and there's any chance that it's impacting players' experience, we want to make sure that players can opt out as much as possible and be able to continue playing the game the way that they were.
It's a great learning.
Yeah.
Huh?
It makes things harder.
Yep.
I will say our options menu is getting pretty lengthy, and maybe that's a candidate for us to take a look at some point.
You all tell us on the forums if you think that that's one of the most important things to look at.
The best thing I would have suggested as production at this point is, can you just turn your chairs to face each other a bit? So just a few degrees. That's all I would have said. It's like, okay, not like so I have to shout up camera like they have been doing. It's like, can you just turn your chairs to just kind of be at the diagonal so you can not only can you see each other, but you don't have to turn your heads, and we still get a good shot. That's all I would have said. Let's just turn the chairs slightly. Well, they don't want to go in and fuck with the lav. Right. I get that.
Want to move on?
Yeah. Here, this is a opportunity. I think one of the things we really like to try to do as much as we can, and hopefully you see this, is when we make mistakes, we own it and talk about what have we learned and how do we move forward. And I think one of the questions that's come up a lot as we start talking about a new Borderlands for World versus World is what went wrong with Desert Borderlands, and how specifically are you going to make sure that you avoid repeating the mistakes that happened with that map as you're making a new Borderlands.
I don't know what happened with this Borderlands map, but people were memeing on it yesterday. Like, it was a fucking disaster.
I think the hard part about World vs. World developing for it is that you've got so many different types of players that engage in the game mode very differently, and it is near impossible to implement solutions or changes that I think appeal to everyone. So you've got your roamers and your players that do nothing but PBT. You've got your what's a good way of phrasing this? Players who like to play in large groups.
You try not to say Zerg.
Large group fashion. You've got folks that like to be very coordinated in a large group. There's just so many different ways to play the game. Oh, you got roamers, right? You've got your scouts. There's all different types of gameplay. And so I think if I was to poll those groups, they'd all feel very differently about why Desert Borderlands wasn't that appealing for them. But what I would say, from my perspective, is it kind of came down to a couple of different things. One is it's too big. I think it really kind of goes into it's hard to find fights. It takes forever to respawn, and if you end up wiping for whatever reason, trying to get back to where the fight was takes forever. It feels like a big grind. Way too much verticality in the map. And I think we'll talk about that here more in a minute, kind of the root cause behind all this. But just, for a World vs. World map specifically, just way too much verticality makes it not very fun. Hard to navigate, obviously. And then I think a lot of the objectives that we added just kind of felt very weak compared to stuff that already existed in Alpine and EBG. But we were talking about this before the call, and you actually had a really good call out as to in terms of how we got there that I thought maybe you would expand on.
Yeah. I mean, I think where did we begin with Desert Borderlands, I think, is a really good learning as we look back on even the ArenaNet process. We were making gliding for Heart of Thorns, and so we were so enamored with this idea of verticality in the maps in Hot and the freeform movement and trying to lean into some of the things we did with Joy of Movement, that we started with a feature for that Desert Borderlands and said, let's make this about gliding.
I mean,
and
even
using
I
movement
noticed
and
that.
using all these new movement abilities. And I think anytime that you start with something
Okay,
like
ban
that,
Frost
and you
Zombie.
start with a feature instead
Ban.
of starting with what's the intended player experience, you're probably in a lot of trouble. And I think that led to a lot of the problems that we ended up having with that map in the first place, is rather than starting with what's best for world versus world, we started with what's best for gliding. And I don't think that's ever what world versus world players wanted. And it's a really important lesson that we have to take as we look at the next one that we make is, hey, what's the experience we're trying to create? And as Josh said, it's hard because there's a lot of different experiences people want out of WoW, but still starting with the player experience first and trying to align with that rather than starting with a feature.
SC0 just has gifted a subscription to Frost Zombie X.
Where's that coming from? I have you muted. The fuck? Where's that coming from? I have all TTS muted. Where's that coming from?
Oh, I think you've got the Yoshi P app open on your PC.
I have the what open?
You know, the sussy Yoshi P icon.
Oh my god, I've
Where's
got
that?
sneaky programs on my PC.
Yeah, I don't know why that's booted for you. Yeah, there is.
Edrem's cool custom overlay.
Oh, this is disable that. That's fine,
If you didn't set it to auto start, I assume it is your partner in crime who set it to auto start, Edrem. This is the problem with the pair of you working together to cause chaos.
The better approach and not something we did with that map.
Colin just said Wovwa. That's what we call it internally, or used to call it internally. And in fact, people who join the team now, they're like, "What the heck are you guys saying, Wovwa?" So he means World versus World.
Yes, sorry.
He's just
Been-
old school.
Been around
Wovwa.
too long.
Wovwa.
Okay, yeah, so all good context, and I think that we made it even worse for ourselves because we basically didn't work alongside the community to validate that the thing that we made was any good or was actually going to meet the player needs. Basically, we built it in isolation, and we showed up one day with an announcement trailer that was like, "Look at this cool thing we made! You're all going to be very excited about it." And it turns out that most players weren't that excited about it, and so we I think we learned our lesson there. I think we want to basically do the same thing we did with PvP Rush, the new game mode that we released with Janther Wilds, which is effectively let's put out the earliest, ugliest version of a map possible, gray box state, a prototype effectively. And that way we're mostly focused on the layout and the gameplay, and we've got maximum ability to change these things without, basically losing a bunch of work and time and effort. And then once we lock in on what we want the map to play like, and players agree that this is the right direction for the map, only then do we go, okay, cool, let's actually allow our artists to go and build the final version of the map, as long as we're preserving the layout and the gameplay that we all got aligned on.
I really like this. This is the different approach that mistakes get made when devs try to overly specify what a piece of content is supposed to be used for, and they have this like singular vision of like, we're making this because we want this, and then when they put it out to players like, actually we want it, we're not into this, what we were hoping for is X, Y, and Z, and now it's too late to change it. Warfronts would probably be the best example of this. Is like, we're making this thing, we think it's really cool, you're going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and in our mind this is like really awesome. Players then get an idea of what that's going to be like, and you don't get to test it, and then it suddenly arrives and you're like, oh, this is absolutely not what I wanted in the first place. Like from moment one, this is not what I was hoping to be. Yeah, do you remember Warfronts? Yeah, you liked Warfronts? Ban that person. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, unlosable content is awesome.
And so,
fucking gooners.
I don't think we have a hard deadline or timeline for how long it's going to take for us to deliver the map. I think this is one of those places where, we don't want to ship something that doesn't really solve the problem or make players happy effectively. And so, but I do anticipate that we'll probably run betas over the course of probably close to a year on live in various forms, right? Some of these will be really early on, and you'll kind of start to see the progress as we kind of go through. But I'm really excited about the opportunity there. This is pretty atypical, I would say, for for MMOs, or really kind of any sort of live game, right? I think to bring players in this early. I know that PTRs exist, obviously, but the idea of like doing this in a live game, I think is just what's really compelling. One of the risks of PTRs is that you get a really small slice of your audience that goes and plays it. Yep. Only the folks that are willing to go download an extra 100 gig client and play at very specific times.
Big true.
Really
well said, Josh.
Play and participate and provide feedback, which I think is really powerful.
You also get very biased feedback.
Live too, right?
It's usually the super nerds PTR.
And the volume of feedback that we get, because everyone can participate, is just, it's huge, right? And if we were to do these on PTRs, I think we'd be only getting a very small number of players that are willing to go through all those hurdles in hoops. And I still think we'd be able to deliver as good content as we do. So I'm excited to take this approach.
No, I think it's fantastic. And by the time we realized Desert Borderlands was a miss, it was basically done, and it was impossible for us to go back and without a massive investment to go back and redo it. And so it's really exciting to see this approach. And I think the things that we have done this way have been much better than those that we don't involve our community as much.
Are you trying to piss me off, JS? Now you like island expeditions and warfronts. It's gross. No, this is actually really good. I really like what they're saying here. I think Josh has got a great take on this. PTRs are inherently biased and just less useful. And often the feedback doesn't even really get addressed. Certainly looking for the WoW PTRs. Very few people play it. Often less than enough to do a dungeon, which is 5 people. There's less than that. Certainly people aren't often going to come back after you've made changes to retest those changes. Even PTR raid testing is dying hardcore in WoW because people could just watch the stream. Everything will be out. They're going to download a mod pack anyway. I mean, I've PTR'd more than probably anybody here. I PTR'd hardcore for many, many years, and I can tell you it's a pretty miserable, lonely experience that you could do very little about, honestly. You can give your feedback. At least I had a platform, I could put it out on YouTube or whatever and try and reach some people. But it feels like a fruitless endeavor. And that's been a sentiment for a while. Like, is it immersion breaking? Because I assume that would be the answer that a lot of people would give me. It's immersion breaking. But I could see in WoW's case, the Caverns of Time, where there's like a future version. The Caverns of Time, which takes you to all different time periods in WoW to do various content. If the Caverns of Time had some sort of glimpse into into a potential future, a potential timeline. And basically, that's bullshit. It's just a fantasy excuse to have a test area. That's where the future raids is. Go and try it out. Give feedback from it. This is where this thing's going to be. Like, the new BG is going to be in here. The Warfronts are going to be in there. And it's just in the game. But it's clearly... you had to travel to it. It's clearly in a test period of time. There's a feedback NPC, maybe, something like that. Like, if you really think that, like Josh is pointing out here, is like, once we put this content out, and I think the Warfront comparison is pretty solid here, because although some people liked it, most of us did not. Is before you get too balls deep into the weeds of doing all the final artwork and all the final animations and spell IDs and reward structure and all that, like, from the core fundamental ground, is this something you guys enjoy? Or is this not what you expected? Did you actually expect something else? And we could do that nice and early. I think that's much wiser than the PTR process myself. I really, really agree with Josh on this, big time.
As we can.
Yeah, I mean, going back to where I started, like, I think the big challenge here is we do have a lot of players that play the game very differently. Yep. And so trying to find a version of a new Borderlands map that will, I think, appease everybody is going to be a tough challenge. Obviously, we've got maps that do it pretty well already. And so I think as long as we, stick close to what we know already and, what players tend to enjoy, I think we'll probably end up in a good spot. Okay.
Like, this trolling from... And I can see they're all non-subs. I'm sub-only. I like fucking Azerite armor. Get fucked. I mean, you're just talking mad shit now, right? I like Azerite armor. I think the Maw is really good. Like, you fucking Ollerman, dickhead, right? All you fucking idiots that are in here just to piss me off. And I'm ill. I'm not well. I've got a headache. I'm full of tissues. And now you're going to sit here and defend Azerite armor and all this kind of shit, right? You can shut the fuck up, all of you. Torghast was biss. You just like... It's just dickhead mode. No, it's dickhead mode. Be free, my king. Nice, I got a sub. I can't win. Where's my mod options to win? There we go. I can win that way. There's a victory to be had if I do that. That works. You can't even spell Warfronts anymore, you fucks. Like, you can't do it. I win. This is how I win every step of the way. That's all the way, big sad.
It's tough. Like in looking back, there's almost no update we've ever made to World versus World that universally everybody likes. It's very
not
hard to
possible.
Do. There's always a
not
subset
possible.
of players that it doesn't work for their version of the way that they want the game to work, or
not
the
possible.
way that they play it. And so that is a really hard challenge and a tough thing as we go forward with that. But I think if we get enough excitement,
gosh golly, World vs. World is really hard to develop for. At certain points, I think that we're even a little afraid of the audience, afraid of of breaking things. And I think we had some really.
How was your interview process
recently about like, look, we got to try stuff. We got. I know it's really scary to do things, and there's going to be players that don't like the things that we're doing for a variety of reasons, but that doesn't mean that we can't do anything. And so I think just getting a lot more comfortable with trying stuff, and then being comfortable with turning things off or rewinding those changes if they don't actually achieve the goals that we have. And so I think it's given us a little bit more confidence in over the past year.
Imagine trying to please an MMO player base of PvPers.
The stuff that the team has done with fashion.
That's harder than pleasing my wife.
Like, hey, we released it.
It's just not
feedback
possible.
Wasn't what we wanted it to be, and we sat down and said, "Here's what we're going to do to address it. Here's a roadmap of how we're going to do that." And then we've systemically, point by point, gone through and updated. I think like that's us at our best. Obviously shipping something that a subset of people are upset about is not us at our best. But when we do, owning it, talking about it, laying out a roadmap and addressing it. And so hopefully, if we do miss on some things through this process, we'll do the same thing then too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I tried using a roadmap with my wife, but the
TomTom
told me to drive into a river.
I think you can actually talk about some of the core game design stuff a little bit and maybe some technology stuff, and then we'll go from there.
That sounds good.
So how will you ensure that Guild Wars 2 maps, metas, and older content remain populated during this transition?
I guess the first one is it's part of our strategy, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, is we anticipate millions of players to come play Guild Wars 2, either coming back who haven't played in a long time, or players who play Guild Wars Reforged or play Guild Wars 3 and fall in love and want to go play Guild Wars 2. All of those things are a big part of our strategy, and we believe will play a role in helping make sure that the game is always populated. Hall of Monuments in the future serves a similar purpose as well, of having players come back so that it's always populated.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a good spot, actually.
Stop talking to his face!
Talk about some of the recent stuff in the announcement, if you don't mind.
No, please.
So you just talked about seeing a lot of players come back to the game.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention this is already happening, actually. And so since the announcement on Friday, we've actually seen like a 40% increase in the number of daily active users playing Guild Wars 2. The game was already doing incredibly well. I know that players follow our financial reports very closely and are commenting always on how much money we're making and whatnot. And so that things are going pretty well for us right now. And we're seeing a 40% increase in our daily active users, which is pretty fantastic. Week over week, we saw like a 45% increase in concurrency in the live game, which is amazing and wild. I always had hopes that the announcement would be a positive overall impact to the game. Obviously, we assume things will be positive, but has absolutely exceeded my expectations on that.
To be fair, when they used to publish the WoW numbers, we used to pay attention to that.
One is Hopefully I don't
joints
hit like a
are starting to
marketing team
ache.
sniper. We're talking about this.
No one behind the camera is running at you yet. So far, good.
Two other really cool stats. It was Saturday, I believe. We had our single best day for new player acquisitions. The highest number of new players joining the game for the very first time on Saturday since our initial launch on Steam back in 2022.
That's
which
incredible.
Is crazy.
Yeah.
High five, team.
Last really cool one. So we'd actually set a bit of a record with VOE in terms of the number of players coming back to Guild Wars 2 who hadn't played the game in a year or more. So players that had lapsed out of the game, that had moved on to taken a break for whatever reason. We set a record with VOE in terms of the number of players coming back to the game, which is great. We absolutely crushed that on I think it was on Saturday, almost 2x the record that we had set with VOE. And again, these are players who haven't played the game over
If
a
I I
year,
remember
coming back to the series, coming back
correctly,
to Guild Wars 2 for the first.
that was shockingly also the VOE was where you did the most marketing for one of your launches. Like they had me and a bunch of others doing stuff. Didn't they have Willow doing all those like flying demonstrations? They actually marketed the launch. I just wonder if there's a coincidence going on there of letting people know you're doing a thing and then people trying the thing. Just the theory. Just the theory.
Again, over a year. Early signals are very strong. Love what we're seeing right now.
Elite specs only appeals to the people who are following the game. The marketing of adding and telling people that there's elite specs and stuff is what gets other people inspired.
I think
Hero class.
Feeling very validated right now.
Wow, that sounds good.
That's fantastic. And I think, I mean, that speaks to the answer to this question is how are these areas going to be full of players? Well, right, this is what we're doing, and they are showing up, and tons of people are coming back.
Quick question:
I think
they're more orange than me, right? Yeah. Just checking. Yeah. Why do I ask you? Fucking sadly, thank you, Nupps. See, I can trust in Nupsy. Thank you.
Also, if you look at the technology
Although, get fucked. Nupps did confuse yellow and red yesterday. Fuck.
that Guild Wars 2 is built on, a lot of it is set up to support a broad array of players. I think the mega server system in particular, if you look at traditional MMOs, when you create a new character, you then sign up for what world you're going to play on. And the world you play on determines the number of players that you can play with and see in the world. And eventually that server, that world, as populations decline, there's less and less people to play with, and they have to merge servers together or close servers so that population is constantly being managed. Guild Wars 2 doesn't work that way. We use a system under the hood called mega servers that basically creates as many or as few copies of a map as is needed based on the number of players who are currently online, which allows us to constantly make it feel like and have it be that the world is populated around you with tons of players. And so we're already set up for this. We anticipate this. We've built out a system under the hood that allows the game to be fluid in the number of players. It's why even when you play at like 3 a.m, there's still a bunch of people running around everywhere. And so our back-end system is built so that we can operate this way, and it will help with that. And I think that that's an important part of the message as well. Yeah.
I think there's still a lot we can do, though.
I'm not talking about Guild Wars 3 very much.
Specifically to try to better address that problem. So I'm going to say a thing right now.
Did nobody have any Guild Wars 3 questions?
Game director / player. And I'm not saying that we're doing this right
I
now
have.
or that we're fixing this. But I wouldn't be surprised in the future if we do. I think one thing about Guild Wars 2
specifically
it's a very,
about 1 and 2
game, right? There's a lot of cool things you can do. It's not always obvious what you should be doing, especially as a new player, or even if you've been out of the game for any amount of time and you come back to it. It's almost overwhelming. Like, where the heck do I go? And we've added some things to try to improve this, right? With like Wizard's Vault, like, hey,
it's still interesting. Don't get me wrong.
Of the
I like how they run things
to
actually.
Go and do based on your kind of gameplay preferences, but there's still a lot of work that can be done. And I think probably even a bigger challenge is that a lot of the information that you need in order to play Guild Wars 2 is stuff that's not available in the game itself. This is probably a thing we'll never be able to fully fix, just given how robust Guild Wars 2 is, honestly. But like, I know a lot of our veteran players are very familiar with /wiki, and a lot of our veteran players are very familiar with
based?
/wiki event timers or ET, right? Like, event timers or events just generally, world bosses, whatever, like some of the most like staple content in Guild Wars 2. It's
Seattle.
our bread and butter, and there's really no way to know that it's happening in game unless you just happen to know because you're a veteran, you've been around, or you go to the Wikipedia. And so I think finding ways to surface more of that information inside the game client is going to be one of the big opportunities ahead of us. Just making sure that players really understand all the options that are available to them at any moment in time, effectively.
Yeah, and I imagine, in the long-term roadmap, as time goes on further and further, some of the stuff that your team is going to do and adjust is going to be based on what's going on in the game. And so if there are more things we need to do someday, many years down the road, to help make it easier for players to play together or to account for the current population, those are the types of things that we would do, because the intent is to keep the game running for as long as we possibly can, basically as long as any of you want to play it. And, all these years later, 21 years later, Guild Wars 1 is still running as Guild Wars Reforged. Same thing for Guild Wars 2. There'll have to be some updates at some point to adjust to whatever's going on in the game at that point. And hopefully there's just so many people playing it that the updates you need to be doing are dealing with the overwhelming population. And how do you handle all of those players?
Yep. I'm not saying that you should go on the forums and complain about event timers not being visible in the game. But if you do, that's okay. Just don't say that I said to go do that. Don't put my name in the post. Thank you.
Their philosophies have been really surprising.
Yeah.
Really, there's been nothing I've really thought.
I think this one's for you.
You've actually been very, very forward thinking.
Oh, by the way, Stefan, how are we doing on time? I feel like we're in a bit of a vortex over here.
It's been an hour.
It's been an hour.
It's been an hour. Well, I think we've got a couple more that we came prepared for, so you just want to keep rolling? And
sure.
We'll end whenever?
Let's roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for not keeping it to an hour. We're doing our best over here. This is the first. There's no. I can't see a clock.
No, I have no.
So, we're winging it.
We're in a void. We're in the mist.
Hey,
We have no
Nupps.
concept of time, place, anything.
Doesn't that sound awfully familiar? Doesn't that sound... You know who he's talking to there, and it's not the production team. That is not the production team that he's talking to right there.
Yep.
That is legal.
Oh, good.
Good.
Oh, that's nice. Welcome to our fractal.
Colin is E. Okay. Okay. Is mobile a long-term focus or an experiment like prior Guild Wars 1 updates?
Yeah, this is a really good question. We've seen come up a lot in the last few days, and I think the most important message there is Guild Wars Reforged is the focus. And what we said on Saturday is that we are planning to support all of our games for years to come. And mobile is not a focus. Mobile is a platform that you can play Guild Wars Reforged on. And so, yes, absolutely, we're going to release Guild Wars Reforged on mobile devices. That is to get Guild Wars Reforged into more players' hands and to hopefully create millions and millions more Guild Wars fans around the world who want to play all of our Guild Wars games, including Guild Wars Reforged. And for all of us who love Guild Wars Reforged, another way that we can play that game when we're on the bus or when we're out and about, a different way that we can connect with Guild Wars. So is mobile a continuing focus? I would say, sure, yeah, but the more important message is the Reforged is the focus, and that's where we're going. And I think, in the video on Saturday, Josh laid out a pretty specific roadmap for Guild Wars 2 of what we're focusing on and what we're doing. And Steven's roadmap is less specific for Guild Wars Reforged intentionally, because we are focused right now on the next 2 beats, working with our co-dev partner 2 weeks. We're focused on releasing on mobile. And then we've announced that we're going to do a new type of update. And those are the next 2 big things on the calendar for Guild Wars Reforged. And then we're going to decide what happens after that. And I think that this has been a wild journey and experiment already. I think the Guild Wars Reforged anniversary resulted in a much bigger response than we ever expected, which allowed Guild Wars Reforged to happen in the first place. The release of Guild Wars Reforged has been a bigger event than we expected, which has allowed us to pursue doing it, taking the game to phone and extending other devices. And each thing that we're doing on Reforged continues to reinforce the investment and the continued response that we see from all of you and the new people going to play it. We don't know where that's going to go.
They should have their own mute buttons.
We're really excited to see in the future. But certainly, yes, we're going to continue to support Guild Wars Reforged. And now, very soon, you'll also be able to play it on a phone. That is the very direct answer to that question. Cool.
I have nothing to add.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to ask you the next one. I think we waffled on who should answer this one, but I think that you could start.
Okay.
Will Guild Wars 2 ever come to console or mobile?
Ooh.
So, direct answer, no. We'll just get that out of the way first.
enough.
And then lots of context
Because
why.
3's going to console.
So historically, I'll start with the backstory here. We have multiple times looked at taking Guild Wars 2 to console. All the way back when Guild Wars 2 was in early development, we actually did plan to release it on console, and the first few years of development of the engine and the game included a console team. And ultimately, we reached a point where the decision was clear that we couldn't pursue that, and it wasn't a path that was going to work. And I'll let you talk a little bit about kind of the specifics behind all that in a sec. But at that point, we decided all the way back, I think that was like in 2009, 2010, when effectively that initiative came to an end. And then again, right around 2014-ish, when the game was exploding and free-to-play was happening and Heart of Thorns and Guild Wars 2 in China, we asked again, could we go back and try to figure out how to get it to work on console? And again, we encountered a lot of the same answers and decided no. One last time, when you and I came back to the studio, we had those conversations with JT, who was the studio head at the time, and we came to the same conclusion of no, for all the same reasons, this isn't an option for us. That's what Guild Wars 3 is about. Guild Wars 3 is a game that we're building from the ground up so that it can, from the tech side and from the gameplay experience side, work on console. And this goes
How
to
do you
the
feel
thing
about
that we
this?
said
Is there a risk that Guild Wars 3... It's probably not as big of an issue because ArenaNet's capable of releasing different versions of the game, right? 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4 in the future. The console puts some level of restriction on hardware, right? That's FF14's issue. If they do plan to support it for many years, as time, as we know, goes forwards, unlikely to be a problem for the next 5, 6 years or whatever, or even longer. But it's one of those things that you have to bear in mind when you go to console is you get somewhat limited. And that could become a problem. Yeah, consoles are very powerful now, and thankfully, due to our glorious AI overlords, our hardware is probably going to stay the same for a long time. So probably not a big concern. Roll on the data centers, baby.
this last weekend, all of our Guild Wars games are very different. The gameplay experiences, the technology behind them.
They wanted their PS4s
so
gone a long time ago, though, Daphne. That's exactly the issue that I think they've run
between
into.
those communities. And so Guild Wars 3 will be the Guild Wars game that is made to be playable on console. Guild Wars Reforged is the Guild Wars game that is going to be playable on mobile devices, and Guild Wars 2 will not be coming to mobile or to console. Do you want to talk more about kind of the whys behind all of them?
Yeah, so I mean, I can only speak to the, when I say most recent, it was still years ago that we had this conversation, right? But, we really dove into, what are all the changes required to the game, to make to the game in order to be able to go onto PS5 or Xbox or whatever. And, I think the reality is there's just too many compromises we'd have to make with the game, and it would feel like a very different game than the game that we have today in order to be able to do that. And I think it was very important to us that we'd want that game to integrate nicely into the game that we already have, right? So we wouldn't want to create a separate standalone experience that's only for console and then have one that's mostly for PC players. We'd want that to be cross-play and cohesive. Mm-hmm. And in order to be able to make that happen, there's just so many compromises that I think it stops feeling like Guild Wars 2, and it feels like a different game. And, this is in... this is like 2021, 2022, I think, when we were talking about this. Yep. At that point, the game's been out for 9-10 years, and I think that would just be I don't think we couldn't do that. We couldn't go and change the game so much that it feels like a very different game from the one that players been playing for close to a decade at this point. So, love the idea of it. Always sounded really cool to me. But I think that Colin's right that in order to do a game really well on console, you've kind of got to build it from the start with that in mind.
Yeah, and with Guild Wars 3 already in development, it felt like that is our place to do that and to have that experience. And I think if you certainly some of you will probably say, well, other games have MMOs even years after launch have moved on to console, and each of them is their own unique experience, which with their own unique engine and tech stack. And for us, for our engine, for our tech stack, for our game and the gameplay experience, when you add up everything that's involved, it doesn't make sense for us. It has made sense for other games and other studios, and that's awesome. And we love to see more MMOs doing really well on as many devices as possible and as many consoles as possible. Honestly, a lot of the fire that forged Guild Wars 2 was lots of MMOs in development all at once, and awesome competition constantly pushing us to do better. And so we'd love to see as many MMOs on as many devices as we can, but that's just not something that you're going to see from Guild Wars 2. On Guild Wars 3 will be the console MMO game. Guild Wars Reforged will be the mobile MMO game at ArenaNet, and we don't plan to make any changes there for Guild Wars 2.
And also, I just think the idea of like,
hey, I tell you what,
your inventory with a controller. Just
I know it doesn't work on us.
Honestly, like, can you imagine?
Just while we're on the console subject, and obviously it didn't work on anyone here, or maybe it did. My younger son came to me and he said, "Daddy, are you going to be getting the new Xbox?" I said, "There isn't a new Xbox." He said, "Yeah, they're making the new Xbox," and it had a name. It was like the Xbox 3 or something like that. And I was like, "They're not making a new Xbox, mate." And he goes, "No, they are. There's a new Xbox coming, and you're going to be getting it, right?" And I was like, "Mate, I literally watched the Xbox announcement, like today. There's no new Xbox that's coming out." And he goes, "There is," and it was the translucent plastic case version of the Xbox that they're releasing for the anniversary or whatever. But in the eyes of kids, that marketing has made them think there's a brand new Xbox that they're asking for. Not something I'd really thought about. Yeah, not something I'd really thought about. Is they were utterly convinced. He said his whole school was talking about it, and they were asking their parents to get whether they were getting the new Xbox and stuff like that. I was like, tricky little fuckers.
Easy boxes with a controller. I know there's some Steam Deck players that are working through that, but
Yeah.
I don't think we could subject players to that.
Yeah, Chris has fixed it, Coffee.
Yeah.
Chris has intervened on the audio.
Okay, so I think the next question is for you again. So I will read it for you.
All right.
Why does ArenaNet believe it is important to offer 3 different games across
Ooh,
3
good
parts of the
question.
timeline? And what does this look like in the future?
Give me a good answer here, Colin.
Why 3 different games across 3 different timelines? And in particular, I think
Chris,
why
you might
3
need
different
this
games is maybe the
for
most
the thing
important
you're working on.
question. And first, to wax poetic for a minute, the way that we make games at ArenaNet is we start by looking at, during the era of time that we're making our game, what are the player problems, what are the limitations, what are the challenges with the MMO genre at the time, and how do we solve for those? And so back when we made Guild Wars 1 and released that in 2005, we were solving for the problems of what we saw as that era of MMO experience. We tried to call it a cooperative RPG, CO-RPG, and not an MMO, but everyone ignored us and immediately informed us that we'd really shipped an MMO. And so we've just kind of abandoned trying to call it that, and we accepted that everyone says it was an MMO. It's a very unique kind of MMO, but an MMO nonetheless. And then Guild Wars 2 came out in a different era and tried to solve for the problems and challenges and limitations of MMOs in the timeline when it was in development and released in 2012. And now that we're making a new game, it is another era of MMOs. And I think, in particular, most MMO fans are still playing the same MMOs from 10 years ago, and there hasn't been very many new ones across that period of time. And many of those new MMOs have been more of kind of retreads of older ideas or older game systems. There hasn't been a ton of unique innovation. There's been some, which is awesome to see. We love people making MMOs. We cheer like crazy for all of them to be successful, but there hasn't been a lot in the last decade plus. And so it feels like the right time for us to make another Guild Wars game that solves for different problems. So I think that's why are we making another one now, is because we feel like the industry, the genre, and ArenaNet is ready for it, and Guild Wars is ready for it. It's been 19 years since we announced a new game at ArenaNet. 19. Let that sink in for a minute. Like, that feels like a reasonable wait and a reasonable pause for us to announce a new one. So that's the why are we making another Guild Wars game, is because we feel like the genre and ArenaNet and Guild Wars are all ready for it. Why do we want to have 3 different MMOs we support at the same time? Is because we feel like they're all very different types of games, and as a result, they can be appealing to very different types of gamers. And we know at its core there will be some overlap, and our hope will be that there's a lot of overlap of people who just love Guild Wars and want to play all 3 games and continue to do so far into the future. That would be the perfect situation for ArenaNet. But we really want to provide 3 uniquely distinct MMO experiences and different types of games to attract different types of gamers, different types of MMO fans. For Guild Wars 2, one of the things we said is if you hate MMOs, you should go play this game too. And I think, a very similar concept applied to Guild Wars 1 in its timeline. It was a very different type of MMO. And Guild Wars 3 as well has a bunch of new and big ideas that we'll talk about far into the future that are also things that we hope both are really exciting to people who love the MMO genre, but also bring an entirely new fan base into the MMO genre for Guild Wars 3 as well, and allows it to stand on its own. And I think there's something really exciting and compelling about 3 different MMOs all in the Guild Wars franchise running at the same time, in the same way that so many other game franchises have games in different genres or different types, or now even in the MMO space. I mean, I think if you look at what World of Warcraft has done, there's World of Warcraft and there's Classic, and now, in another potential Classic Plus coming. Those are 3 different MMOs running simultaneously in the same game. They aren't even that different, and it's successful for Blizzard. I think if you look at EverQuest, you got EverQuest 1 and EverQuest 2, and EverQuest 1 is on like expansion 27 or something now, which is incredible, and it's awesome to see. And I think Final Fantasy is another great example of how many Final Fantasies have there been, and even different versions of 7 now. And they've got multiple MMOs in the Final Fantasy space that are successful. There's a lot of examples across the industry of this approach being successful in the same way it's been successful for us, for Guild Wars 1 and for Guild Wars 2. And so we see an opportunity here to carve out another type of Guild Wars within the MMO space for players to play. And I think our strategy of connecting those experiences together is part of what makes ArenaNet and Guild Wars unique. The Hall of Monuments concept, where you get rewards in Guild Wars 2 for playing Guild Wars 1, was originally concepted as a way for us to say thank you to all of our Guild Wars fans who played Guild Wars 1, and to keep our studio pillar alive of we respect your time, we respect your investment, and we wanted to feel like all of that time and investment you made in Guild Wars 1, we were going to respect it when we released Guild Wars 2. But it did something magical that we never really expected, which is over years and years that followed, it continually drove Guild Wars 2 players back to play Guild Wars 1, now called Guild Wars Reforged, to get all of those rewards. And it created this franchise ecosystem where the 2 games could live alongside one another. And now in retrospect, I wish that we had much earlier invested a lot more into Guild Wars Reforged to try to nurture that ecosystem.
Well, you thought you wanted it,
those games to
but
run.
you don't.
It's part of what we're doing, why we're doing today. And it's the same reason we're doing now a much more expansive Hall of Monuments 2.0 and connecting Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 3 together is first and foremost, it's a way for us to say thank you, to continue our pillar of your time is respected, your investment is respected in the Guild Wars franchise. And so all that time you put into Guild Wars 2, not only are we going to keep supporting Guild Wars 2 because we want to respect your time, but if you love Guild Wars 3, there's a bunch of thank yous waiting for you in that game as well. But also it creates an ecosystem where everyone who plays Guild Wars 3 for the first time, it's an opportunity for them to go back into Guild Wars 2, play the game, and get all of those rewards. And that is a very uniquely ArenaNet experience of having a Hall of Monuments that lives at the center. In a sense, almost kind of, it's like a Manifesto 2.0, but not for a game, but for our studio. Of we want to have an ecosystem that our games are connected together, that your investment and rewards are connected together and respected, and that you feel like you can play any of our Guild Wars games and have that connection to the franchise that pays off for you in the long run, and that you can have very different experiences in them. And this is, the last thing I'll say on this. This is great. Passion. This is one of my core passions for ArenaNet, and we've been talking about internally for years now about where we want to go. And so it's so cool to be able to tell people finally externally that this is what we want to do.
This is everything I wanted to hear, by the way. Highlight of the Q&A
after Guild Wars 3 releases, where there's always that lull in the games you play of like between updates. You ship an update and then you wait a while until the next one's going to ship, and there's kind of a time fall off in between where things are at their least exciting until you announce the next update. I think there's a version of this that can be really compelling for us, where when one game is in its lull moment, we're releasing the newest update in another game. And so our games can kind of leapfrog off of one another. And if you are just a Guild Wars fan, you're in heaven. There's stuff going on all the time for you across all of our games. And if you just love one of our games, that's okay too. And we're going to keep updating it, but that we're able to stagger and have our ecosystems of games support one another and have their updates offset from one another. I think there's something really compelling there. And we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I think, obviously we have to do the really hard things of like shipping a new game and making sure that it's a game that people actually like, and continuing to support GW2 and everything that we want to do with Reforged. That is incredibly, like, these are all easy things to say. They're very hard things for us to do, but we have to go do all of those things first. But if it works, there's a version of this in the future that I think is really cool to dream about, of someday we could be at that point where that's what the Guild Wars franchise is. And then who knows where we go from there.
I mean, I don't think we're dreaming. I think we're actively taking steps towards achieving that. So
this last weekend was a huge first step towards that. And the work we've done the last 3 years has been setting the table for that, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know, anything else there that you want to?
Oh, you crushed it. It was great. You should be the studio head or something. I don't know. You got the right stuff for the job, kid.
The biggest takeaway difference that you're getting is how much they're ensuring from the ground up that the three can cross-connect to each other, which we talked about WoW's been unable to accomplish due to their own internal and correct decisions. But they're going from the ground up to say, nope, we're linking all these things together as much as humanly possible. And they'll try, I'm sure once the dust has settled, they'll try and get Reforged to merge into it as well, which is obviously what their plan is long term. Yeah, they're not making that same mistake. They want them all to intermingle if possible. It doesn't matter if you don't, but they want to encourage that mingling of the games.
Thanks, man.
No, I guess maybe this is going to be probably an obvious thing to say out loud, but we talk a lot about these games being very different, and like I know that folks will find out much more about that in the coming months and years or whatever the timeline is. But I think important thing to understand too is that these games are on different timelines in Interior, right? And so like there's going to be stories or opportunities for stories to tell in Guild Wars 2 that are not a possibility in 3, and the same thing is true for Reforged as well, right? I hate to break it to folks.
Is it possible? So Guild Wars 3 is being set, was it 1,000 years, 10,000 years before 2? Right? I need a lore master to help me with this. 1,000 years before 1 or 2? 1,000 years before 1, and 2 is set when? Yeah, 1,200 before 1, 250 after 1. So because they're setting the games in different time periods, which I think is what they're kind of hinting at there, because they're adding ore, the ore stuff to 2. So, and Josh said earlier, so that 2 has some mingling going on with what's in 3, is theoretically, they could do something in 3, which is the earliest part of the timeline, which then appears later down the timeline in a new zone. So they have a zone in 3 where a story plays out and a relic is lost or whatever. And then they could have a story later on in 1 that has that, and then they could have that reflect into 2 later down the line. And that's kind of fucking cool. Yeah, they don't even need to do it in order, exactly. Yeah, they could totally do that by having the games all set in different timelines and stuff. And in theory, if you wanted to get real Star Trek about it, you could do some sort of reverse time dragon, chrono dragon shenanigans in 3 that actually has an effect on in 2, which actually has an effect on 3. Right? I'm just saying, let's say that like a mysterious creature arrives. We can't name it right now. We'll give it a letter. Let's call it P. So P arrives, and P has power over time and can move players round or make events actually travel backwards. I shouldn't have chose P, but all right, we'll go with Q then. That you can't take the piss out of Q. So Q does a thing here, which can actually then play into a story they're going to tell there. Like they really are in an advantageous position chronologically, with making some really cool things happen. Quantum Piss Dragon. Fucking spare me, man. Fucking spare me, the quantum
News
piss
here, but,
dragon.
Timey's probably not going to be in Guild Wars 3. So, I hate to break that to folks. I don't know if there's some hope for that one.
Yeah.
But there's a whole cast of characters that I think that folks have come to love. And what Tyria looks like in the current timeline in Guild Wars 2 is very different from what it's going to look like in Guild Wars 3. And so we know a lot of folks have a lot of attachment to those characters. We want to continue finding new stories to tell. Maybe go back and close some open story threads that still exist in the game. But there's so much left to explore left in Guild Wars 2.
There's so
Yeah, I know, Bex, but I'm being one guide by Bex. But Josh said they're doing an update to Ore, which is what I just said, in preparation for 3 coming out. That's what you said earlier on. I'm getting one guide by Bex, like, actually, and I said an update to Ore. This is what I said, an update to it.
Many compelling characters and storylines and threads that we've left open in Guild Wars 2 to explore for decades to come. And I think I saw this wasn't in our things we were going to talk about either, but
going off
script. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
We've only done it about 100 times so far already. Why not
Legal
one more?
game.
I saw a lot of comments as people talked about the different timelines of one of the things that makes Guild Wars 2 unique is the technology, and it's it is a little magitech and a little bit of sci-fi has blended itself in, and as that timeline continues to move forward, we're going to continue to see the advances of in the world of Tyria, and one of the reasons we picked the timeline we did for Guild Wars 3 is very intentionally, it's a very different experience. You're talking about a timeline of high fantasy where there is almost no technology compared to even what GW1 had, and the technological advances from Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2
I don't like high
are
fantasy.
massive when you compare them to the amount of technological
Mages
advances that
are
happened in the
assholes.
timeline from
Cooks.
Guild Wars 3 to Guild Wars 1.
When's
the
sci-fi?
technological advances in that period of time
Where
are much
lasers?
smaller across that period of time, and I think it allows us to have Guild Wars 2 is a game that has a really, especially now, some of the stuff the Asura and the Char have created. There's some really cool, unique feels to that game and that world that won't exist in Guild Wars 3
really.
that will feel different, that will feel more grounded, high fantasy experience in a different time, in a different era. And I think that even though each of those games will have their own storylines, their own characters, their own settings that we're going to continue to expand constantly across all 3 of the games, there also is places where they will connect together and have stories that crisscross across those storylines. Guild Wars 1 in many ways set up so many of the stories that you experience in Guild Wars 2, and some of the things you're going to experience in Guild Wars 3 are things that have been set up in Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 over the last 21 plus years of the franchise.
Could we,
and
in theory, kill Bram's great grandfather in 3 and then save Guild Wars 2? Is that possible? Yeah, we can send that, right? Yeah, that'd work. Alternatively, we go fuck his mum and become Bram's dad. That's too much disappointment.
In the future, how some of those stories, there may be things that happen in the different games that have connections to stories that have happened in the other games, in ways that we think are really cool and have been really fun to watch people speculate all weekend long. The lore videos and even the timeline, and me misspeaking on the timeline in an interview the other day. Whoops. All of that stuff has created a huge amount of speculation and discussion. And that's the point. That's part of the joy of this, is allowing these mysteries. I think that's one of the great things about the Guild Wars franchise, is we leave enough mysteries and question marks and stories for people to explore and theorize and make fan videos on and debate. And we don't want to stop that. We want to keep having more of those while answering some of those questions that then open new ones. And you're going to see a lot of that both in the coming years and far into the future as well. It's fun to think about everything ahead of us. All right, we're done with that question. Well, speaking of the future, I think our last question, this is a good one for you, Josh. What does Guild Wars 2 look like 5 to 10 years from now?
Yeah, This is a great question. I think I forgot what I said in the video exactly, so I'm gonna paraphrase here a little bit. But I think we feel a lot of responsibility in ensuring that Guild Wars 2 remains a place that people feel comfortable calling their home. A place that they feel comfortable returning to and spending all of their time or as little time as they want to in the game. And so like that ultimately is our goal. But like how do you do that, right? Like how do you make sure that people feel like their time's being valued, that they're getting enough from the experience? Well, we got to keep delivering, obviously, right? And so a couple years from now, we'll be multiple additional expansions will have launched by then. Hopefully, we've made some pretty good headway on our modernization.
Just to be clear, you said a couple of years from now, multiple expansions would have shipped.
Oh, sorry, 5 to 10 years
yes.
from now, we'll have many.
Just to make sure everybody is clear, that's not happening in the next 2 years. So.
Gosh. Should I start over? No,
you're good.
kidding.
In the next 5 to 10 years, there'll be more expansions.
Point is, looking out 5 to 10 years from now, we'll have multiple expansions out. I think hopefully a lot of the modernization efforts. I gotta find a better word than modernization. That's a really hard one to say. A lot.
It does sound really close to monetization also, which is not the message.
That is not it. Yeah. Okay, we'll workshop that one. We don't really have a term for it.
The Reforged, well, that's taken.
Oh yeah. I don't know. We'll come up. We'll get the marketing team on it to help us out. But yeah, anyways, I'm hoping that we see a lot of great improvements in the modernization work that we're going to be doing, which I'm again personally very excited about. Hopefully, a lot of the work that we're doing under the hood will be in terms of like fidelity and optimization and whatnot will be very visible and present in the new content we're developing.
Yeah, did you get a picture of some guy sat in a cage with a bowl of oats on the floor? That's the marketing department. It's called like Gregor or some shit. Trapped in the basement. It's just fucking just this little bowl.
Places to explore still that we want to go to.
Yeah, marketing goblin.
So many different storylines and stories to be told.
Gregor the marketing goblin.
New ones that we will manufacture, but I think also closing the loop on a lot of open threads that have been in the game for many, many years now. So I think a lot of ways, hopefully it feels very similar to it does right now, right? Like we're kind of already doing the thing that we want to be doing. We're just taking a bit of a break to move and focus on a different thing for right now. But we're gonna get back at it here very shortly, actually. Expansions take a while to develop, so we'll actually be starting development on it next year. But you won't hear about it until after the release of Guild Wars 3. But, again, hopefully it feels very similar to what it does right now.
And I think that's what people want. That's perfect. More of what they love, which is what you love about Guild Wars 2. We want to just keep giving you more of that.
Cool. Well, I think that hits everything. The fun thing about this is we can't see chat. I have no idea how this is going.
Yeah, we may have bombed historically at this point.
I think it's going okay. This technical issues aside,
it was a rough start.
Okay. But obviously we'd love to hear more feedback on what you folks are thinking about. This isn't going to be the last time we're communicating about any of this. This is in some ways the very start of a long campaign, especially for Guild Wars 3.
Absolutely.
And so, as you folks have thoughts and feedback, one, if it's about the game itself, there's a new forum that we've launched. You should go drop your comments there.
Shout outs to forums, by the way. They don't get enough love in 2026.
But if you've got other thoughts and feedback, obviously we're going to be watching the forums.
Big love for people still posting on forums.
Very excited, looking forward to that.
And we've got our official Discord now. Great place to go to discuss all of this and theorycraft together for years in the future. And as Josh said, we have our new forum threads where you can call out specifically what do you want to see improved in GW2.
Clicking that, Phil.
And Josh said it earlier. Please don't write Josh said we should do this, or else we will ignore the thing you said.
Most important thing in this whole live stream.
But you can go in there and anything that you're excited about, anything that you want to see changed in the existing game and any of the expansions, please put those in there. We really, really appreciate it. And I think you said it earlier, there were literally thousands of questions across this weekend. And so if we didn't cover one of the ones that you thought was most important, we did our best to pick out the ones that we thought were most impactful that we could talk about right now. I think also we didn't want to pick ones that we would just basically say we can't say anything about that right now. And so know that, as Josh said, we'll keep updating and talking more in the future. You're going to be hearing from a lot more from ArenaNet in the future as we talk about 3 games now. And we've got a lot of big stuff coming here even very soon.
Actually, this just dawned on me. I do want to add that, I know it's been a little uncomfortably silent from the Guild Wars 2 team in recent months, and I think obviously now it's probably pretty clear as to why that was the case. It was hard to talk about our future within the context of what Guild Wars 3 is, and so obviously it's not how we want to operate, and it's not how we've been operating in recent years. We've been trying to be very transparent, providing very long-term roadmaps, what we're doing with the product. That's definitely what we're getting back to. It was just a bit of a weird period to be in with the announcement looming there, and so hopefully that explains why things were kind of going the way they were. But now that that's out in the open, I think it allows us to be a bit more free, and hopefully as evidenced by today's live stream.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, I think it's part of why we announced Guild Wars 3 now too, is so that we could make sure before the final update for this Guild Wars 2 expansion completes, that we could tell all of you where we're going and what's going on. I think that was really important to us, is to maintain that transparency and that long-term vision for everybody of where's the franchise going, where is the game going, and we didn't want you to get to the last update for VOE and look around and go, well, now what's coming next? We wanted to answer that question before we got there, and so yeah, we you know where we're headed, and now we can talk more about GW2 as well. Though we've got a huge update coming for Guild Wars Reforged, coming out on mobile devices this summer. We've got our next major QR coming.
Biggest QR, actually. I know QA is sweating.
Nice.
It'll be our biggest QR so far, so we're very excited about that one.
By the end of the year, we've got our new Hall of Monuments 2.0 will have its first release. Very exciting there. And then we've got tons more news for Guild Wars 3 that you'll hear as time goes on too. So there's a heck of a lot going on with the Guild Wars franchise right now. It is a really, really exciting time. I hope for all of you as it is for us. And Josh said it earlier, and I think it bears repeating. We all have the same goals. We want to see the franchise and the games that you love really healthy, with lots of people playing them, and they're continually being updated. And we know that's what all of you want out of the games. That's the same thing that we want to have happen with all of our games. And hopefully that this plan and the path that we're on ensures that happens. Certainly 4 days in, the results are pretty spectacular, but we know that we got a long ways to go and a lot of beats ahead of us. But we really appreciate everyone's support, all of the positive reactions, and also constructive feedback that we've had too. Both are
absolutely.
very, very much appreciated. And it'd be really fun if 15 years from now we're back here having conversations about where the franchise is as a result of everything that we talked about today.
And we said jokingly Guild Wars 4 and Roller Beetle Racing earlier. That was a joke.
Yes, please
To be clear.
don't quote us on that.
It's a little
That's
premature
right.
for that one.
Yep.
I really hope Legal was stood behind the camera with a whiteboard saying, make sure you tell them it was a joke. I really hope that is what's happening behind the camera, is there's a guy there with a little whiteboard from Legal going, please tell them this. Please just make that point.
Well, thanks everybody. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out and kind of weathering some of the stumbles with us, but hopefully this was valuable. I guess we'll find out very shortly if it was.
Yeah, if we're never allowed back on a live stream again, you'll know it didn't work.
No, I'm going to there's a lot going wrong, but we'll get there in the end. That's all that matters. Bye. That was good. I know it wasn't Guild Wars 3 much, but the actual behind the scenes thoughts of these two is very, very cool to see. Phil, if this is about feet, really give me a trailer from 15 years ago. What are you doing? Okay, some of you were asking for, obviously we've got our fixed audio version that Chris made, but I'm seeing here, I don't know how good this is, but there's one here that's also fixed. So I'll link it there of what we just watched for anybody who joined late or whatever, because they talked about some really good stuff. They were a little vague on things, but yeah, there's an idealism to what they're saying, and they can clearly see, rightfully so, that if they play their cards right here, they should be set up for a very long time, like almost in an infinite way, as long as they don't fuck things up. Because all the pieces of the puzzle are there. You've got a timeline that you can manipulate. You can now easily jump through timelines because they're just part of separate games. They can test out different ideas. They can take risks with different versions of the game without it actually impacting something else. They could now have a much more considered release cadence, which has been a problem for them in the past. There's a whole lot of advantages that they're giving themselves here. They're confident, the popularity is good, the hype's good. They're going back and redoing lots of 2 to prepare for the future. Detail. The devil will be in the details when we start getting more and more details about the joy of movement. The joy of movement. And of course, whatever these tweaks they're making to the combat system. So we shall have to wait and see on the details. But in theory, everything points in a very promising direction. And it's really nice to have a lot of the things that get talked about off camera with the issues with the MMO genre that devs don't like to talk about publicly, because annoyingly, it's mostly considered a bad look if you are talking about the problems and stagnation of a genre that you're actively trying to get people invested in. I disagree with that if you put the correct thought into it and the way you approach that subject. But generally speaking, they just ignore it and pretend it's not there. Yeah, it's understandable. It's like somebody will take it that way. If, when Colin's saying it's like nobody's done any... I was trying to think back as to what the last major innovation was for MMOs. Like, what was the last big innovation? And the closest I could really get was Mythic Plus in Legion for WoW. But even that's just an adaptation of what came with Diablo and ARPGs in general. Like, what was the last big innovation that really moved everything forward? I can't really think of it. Maybe Guild Wars 2 mounts, but I mean, it's an advancement on the mount system. It's an iteration on something else, right? Fractals came before Mythic Plus. Well, I mean, also, it's, again, the never-ending dungeon thing. You get what I mean? And Diablo came before all those, which... mapping and stuff came along before those as well. There's Evercold gear changes. Well, Evercold's doing a similar sort of thing. Right? Evercold is doing... Well, we haven't got details yet on really either. We've got more details with 14s. But the evolved combat system... I don't know why we're quotation it. That's what it's called. Might end up being something similar to what ArenaNet's planning for Guild Wars 3. With less but more proactive and visually and more meaningful buttons to press to go with it. My personal thought is that is a good move that both of them seem to be addressing, because the youngsters are not reading 12 and 14 fucking buttons on the bar. That's not happening. They're certainly not reading a talent tree with paragraphs first of information on some slight modification to one of your spells, and they're not doing it, right? They're not doing it. The youngsters are just not doing it. They're not going to sit down and read all that stuff. And MMOs are slowly been bleeding for the last 10 years. We keep hearing the references. Older, the audience is getting older. It's like, right, because there's not young blood coming into it, right? There's not many people sitting at home at college all day, as they used to be. They still are, but as they used to be, like investing every day of their lives into grinding stuff. MMOs boom a genre, right? But that's what they're trying to fix, right? They don't want that to be the case, because most of us agree MMOs are really fun. But how do you tempt those guys in who are used to more fast-paced and low input, so to speak, in terms of number of spells, gameplay, which is more the way it is today, right? Yeah, it's not sustainable, and they can see that, and it's not been sustainable for a long time without really milking your audience for every single penny they've got with your $75 Spring Blossoms or whatever. I don't think it's socioeconomic, to be fair. Like, certain things like Game Pass, sure. You have endless games on things like Game Pass, but MMO subscriptions, if you're really into your game, are not a bad entertainment value proposition at all. They're really not. Even ones that have a sub, which obviously Guild Wars 3 doesn't. Either way, the genre needs some life. It needs something fresh. It needs some risks, which no company's been willing to make for a long time. It needs to take some risks. Whether or not we'll see that here, I don't know. I hope so. But it definitely needs some risks. Otherwise, it's just going to die off. I mean, it'll never die. Like, people will play till they're in the 70s. And they do attract some youngsters to it. There's not none. It's not a net zero, but it's not enough is the problem. A grown-up version of Roblox. Yeah, we talked a bit about that yesterday. Mm-hmm. The thing about subs is that the quality of the service changes, both improves and degrades regardless of the price changing. Yeah. Yeah, it does. All amounts have reduced cosmetics to 1, you get 3. Yeah, like PoE did, right? Tried to get anything you bought in PoE, especially if you're doing a microtransaction model, it is somewhat important that if somebody's buying something for one game that, you know, it appears in their other game, that's going to be an expected thing, for sure. Yeah, very much so. When's PoE 2? Not right now. Right, I'm just going to go and clear my head of snot and get rid of all these dirty tissues on my desk. So give me a hot second, team.